So I get a lot of people at the desk, coming in and talking about premiums. Do you see the same thing, or is it just me?
Yes, I do. I see them asking, how much is that over spot? And how come the premiums are so high? And, yeah.
Yeah, the usual questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't understand what the source of the premiums are. So we've covered that in other videos.
We have, yeah.
We did that about a month ago. We talked about premiums and how basically it's kind of immaterial premiums because they're just factored in. But like I said, we addressed that in another video. We talked about what that represents, but just the short form of it is, well, if there were no premiums, there would be no one that was paid to move the metals around through the supply chain to get them to where we are, and there'd be no profit for anybody. So there'd be no incentive for anybody to be in business
Yeah.
so that you could buy silver. Everything comes at an additional cost over its manufacturing cost, right? Because it has to be moved and warehoused, and people have to, talk at windows and shuffle cash and do paperwork so that you can have silver.
Sure. Everything
Right.
you purchase has a premium, including your home. Want to talk about that, Tom?
Yeah, but now that's a related subject, and how it's related is once people understand the premium, then the next objection is why is it so high? Well,
Yeah.
honestly, it's a difficult question to answer, but I think the best thing to do is to not concern yourself with why it's so high, because look, let's face it, if you're going to be an asset investor and own assets, which really is the objective if you don't want to be poor the rest of your life,
Mhm.
then you're going to have to accept that every asset has a premium, even though it isn't necessarily called that.
Yeah.
So, what other assets, Virginia, could we bring to the table that we could compare premiums?
Okay, so think about your financial advisor annually. They're going to give you trailer fees annually. So it's built in. A lot of times it's just built in. You don't even see your premiums. You don't even realize they're there. They're built in.
Hmm?
Yeah. That's all I can think of right now.
Okay, housing,
Well, yeah,
a car
sure.
loan.
Car.
Let's say you
Yeah.
buy a business vehicle, whatever, on credit. I
Yes.
mean, anything in what you buy on credit comes at a premium.
Yeah.
So let's do the big one, your home. What's the premium on your home? Now, I did a video a while back talking about what the average mortgage rate's been for the last 70 years. Now, if you total them all up and divide by 70, it's 6.6%. Now, I know we've been in the mortgage rate twilight zone for the last 25 years, which is not natural, and we're going to pay for it. Of course, we always keep saying that. But just for argument's sake, 6.6% being the average for 70 years, there must be something about that number that's a more balanced, number that keeps valuations from getting so out of whack. But at that number, if you bought $1 million home, uh, it's over $2 million when it's all said and done. So your premium on that is actually over 100%. It's around 119%.
Hmm.
Now, silver right now, I would estimate the premiums, if you did a calculation, be somewhere around 25 to 28% generally. Right. So the thing is you make your monthly mortgage payment, and it never really occurs to people. The average home buyer just says, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" And
Yeah.
that's the end of it, right? And never a thought for the future. And so, but if you sit down and you break that down, you're paying let's just for argument's say 120% premium on that home by the time it's all paid off. Because if you plug that $1 million into a mortgage calculator and run it out for 30 years, which is now kind of the standard for mortgages, 30-year mortgages, you actually pay like that 119%, but you do it over time and it's monthly, so you don't consider the breakdown of what you're actually paying.
We're not even considering repairs.
No, and then there's the 1% rule, which is now turned into the 3 to 5% rule. So if you factor that in, meaning that the cost of owning a home with maintenance and all the other things that go into it, over time, they used to call it the 1% rule. So if you had $1 million home, they said, take 1% of that, and that's going to be your monthly additional costs. Now
Hmm.
they're saying 3 to 5%. So without getting into the numbers, go get a calculator and figure out what that is over and above. And that's a premium as well. That adds on to the heap. So add another 10 or 20%.
Hmm.
Possibly. I don't know. I haven't run the numbers, but do your own numbers. You know, it's not my job to do it for you. It's just
Yeah,
the concept. So comparing the two, I mean, it's a joke, but because you pay it over time, you're going to pay that higher premium. The thing about buying silver is it's debt settlement.
settled.
You
Yeah,
pay it all at once. So when you pay it all up front at once, it's noticeable. Now, but if you compare apples to apples, it's completely upside down, but we take it for granted with our home. We don't even think about it.
yep, and there's no maintenance on those metals either. There's no
No
maintenance,
maintenance. Now,
nothing,
granted, if you had a large amount and there was storage fees and stuff monthly, okay, yeah,
sure,
you know that. But then,
true enough.
even then, if you compare those two numbers, they're never going to be even close. Now, do your trailer fees on investments. I had a fellow come in and we got into this, and I was trying to help him to understand this, to rationalize it, because people don't stop and think about it. And if they don't stop and think about it, oftentimes they'll walk away. I've had guys walk away. They were so freaked out by premiums. And I said, look, you can't just take this in a vacuum. You have to compare what your alternatives are. Because if you're not going to put that money here, what are you going to do with it? Well, I'm going to put it into land or real estate. Okay, on a mortgage? Okay, now we're talking. Right. So this guy, he was very open. And I said, okay, do you have an account manager? And I was expecting him to say no, because the average person doesn't. And he said, yeah. And I said, oh, you do? And I said, what are his trailer fees a year? 2.7%. I was shocked. I mean, I knew a
Okay.
guy that did this for a living, and he was 1 to 2% max, 2.7%. So I said, wow, over a 30-year period, what is that? And without even doing the multiplier, like compounding, just flat, 30 times 2.7 is what, like 74% or something? So there again, that is a higher premium. If you want to call that a premium, because what else would you call it? It's an overcost, right? This really
Yep.
just an overcost. If you want to like average it out and quit assigning terminology to it, it's an overcharge. So the overcharge, again, is double or triple what silver is.
Did he
Uh,
understand?
he did. He totally got it, and it totally helped him resolve. He was going to move forward anyway, but it totally helped him resolve. You could see this sort of calm resolve come over him, and I
Good.
was like, I finally got through to one.
Nice.
So, and I mean, you can do this with anything. Do an auto loan, and then
Yeah.
do maintenance on vehicles. I mean,
Mhm.
none of it is free.
Warranty, everything, yeah.
Yeah, no asset comes without an additional overcharge, because there are people involved in the supply chain and the process, and there's fees and
Sure.
licenses and everything. But so if you just take silver and the premiums in a vacuum, you're always going to be like, you're going to reject the idea, but you can't take anything in a vacuum. You have to compare it to
Yeah.
what other alternatives you've got, because there is no ultimate, you're my ultimate asset that is perfect and doesn't have any fees. They don't exist,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back to, you just have to take responsibility for your financial portfolio and know what you're doing and do an overall mathematical calculation, right? And see.
Yeah.
You'll see that you're going to have fees in all of your assets.
And you know, the financial planners aren't going to tell you this kind of thing.
No.
And I mean, if you don't ask, we're not going to tell you either, because we just expect that, you know, if you're a silver buyer, none of us can advise you on silver. We're not financial planners. We don't have a license to be able to give you advice. So in a reality, we can't even help you with some of these things by bringing your attention to them. This is something, you know, I always say, if you're going to be a silver buyer, you have to be an adult. And I've said that to people over the phone that, you know,
You
honestly
do.
call, and they're whining and complaining and just going on like, you've whined about 10 different things now. I've said to people, look, I don't think you should be a silver buyer. I don't think you have the intestinal fortitude for it. And people are shocked when I say that, but I'm trying to bring them down to reality. I'm helping to snap out of their stupor that they're just complaining and complaining about all the things that are wrong with things. Well, then show me in your world the ultimate, you know, panacea investment that's right for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's kind of a put up or shut up statement for most people. It's like, oh, they kind of stop, and brings them back to reality. And unfortunately, it's just life. Nothing comes without a cost.
Yeah. And two, when I talk about calculating your portfolio properly, you have to do it over time,
Over time. Yeah.
because everything looks really rosy right here, but you've got to look at those annual fees and stuff. Like you
Yeah.
say, silver and gold settled. Let's
Yeah,
just
you know-
say you're buying over the counter, cash, or whatever you're paying, without storage. Of course, storage has some fees, but
That's different.
regular, just buying, I mean, you gotta calculate this over time.
Yeah, and the thing
And
is,
your
there is no time frame with gold and silver. The debt is settled at that
Yeah.
point, so all the costs are immediate, and so they seem more out of proportion until you compare over time the cost of a mortgage, the cost of trailer fees for financial planners, the cost of owning a vehicle, and all those additional interest charges and all that stuff, maintenance. Once you put them, side by side on a chart, do the Benjamin Franklin close, like put it down all your objections in a row and add them
Yeah.
all up and look at them. Then you'll see that silver and gold, in fact, are the lowest premium of any asset class in many regards.
And the most natural too. Talk about how, isn't that nice to settle your debt, guys? Right?
Well, that is the thing about gold and silver. It's a debt settlement. If you
Mm,
look at a ledger, right, a ledger, a financial
Yeah.
ledger that you're tracking debts and assets, the ledger's objective is to bring to zero. Well, I often say that gold and silver are the ledger because they're
Right.
zero means debt settlement. Well, they are debt settlement in and of themselves. So they're a different animal, and because people are not
Yes.
taught about them, it's not discussed publicly. There's no dialogue about it anywhere. People are confronted with this the first time, and they think, "Wow, this is weird. Like this is a scam," and it's nothing of the sort. Once you break it down and compare, because again, show me the panacea asset that doesn't have all these qualities, that comes at no cost, and you make great returns on it. They don't exist. It does not
Mhm.
exist. So you can only compare that. Your other alternative is to do nothing. Go spend your money like everybody else does and be poor the rest of your life. So I know these are harsh words, but it's time for some harsh talk with people because we're coming into some very difficult times. And people are going to have to make a choice. There's $900 trillion in dollar denominated assets that at some point are going to be looking for a new home in this coming financial crisis that we keep talking about. And by the way, on that topic, what day are we going to be down at the hotel again talking? We're doing another conference like the last one. Is it the 27th?
Yes.
September 27th, folks. I thought I just mentioned this on every video going forward, if I can remember, that we're going to be doing a talk, and we're going to be talking about all this money math and the very subject. I'm going to talk about how you haven't had a raise in 70 years, technically in real terms, how your house is not the asset you think it is. A lot of stuff that's really going to shake people up. The last one was very well received by the crowd we had there, and I think this one's going to be even better. So make a note of the 27th. We're going to be down at the old, it's the
Holiday.
Marriott Hotel now, but it was the old Holiday Inn that just got all redone over the last 4 or 5 years they've been working on. Beautiful place, beautiful facility, folks. So consider coming down there on the 27th. We'll be putting out some ads and we'll put a connection, a link in the description at some point so that you can attend. Okay. That's good enough for today, hon.
Yeah.
Let's call it a day. Thanks for listening, folks. Have a great day.